Welcome to the seventh episode this season. It's the sixth year, seventh episode, April 6th. Time flies when you're having fun. Well, just 2 days ago was the sad anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And everybody seems to be giving him lip service, but nobody seems to be, taking to heart anything he said. I mean, it's really fashionable to talk about how much you agree with Martin Luther King, as long as you don't, actually give anybody the rights that they deserve. But anyway, let's just go on. There's a clip from the Real News Network, and it's going to have a little bit of discussion about Bradley Manning and MLK. So take it away.
Paul J. in Baltimore, and welcome to this week's edition of the Ratner Report with Michael Ratner, who now joins us from New York City. Michael is President Emeritus of the Center for Constitutional Rights. He's chair of the European Center for Constitutional and Human Rights in Berlin. He's also a board member of the Real News. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Paul.
So, what are you focusing on this week?
Well, there's a lot going on, everything from the hunger strike at Guantanamo to lots else to talk about. But what was really meaningful for me this week was the anniversary of two events. One is the 46th anniversary of Martin Luther King's speech at Riverside Church called Beyond Vietnam, in which he came out against the Vietnam War and really much broader than that, a very important speech.
Now it should be incandescently clear that no one who has any concern for the integrity and life of America today can ignore the present war. If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam.
And the third anniversary on April 5th of the collateral murder video, that's the release by WikiLeaks of a video that was given to them by Bradley Manning. It was then decrypted, or encryption was broken through apparently by WikiLeaks, and it's a devastating video. And those two documents really, even though there's some 40-some years apart, are for me two of the most important documents of our time. The King's speech, again given up at Riverside 46 years ago, a year to the day, April 4th, before he was murdered. Talks about Vietnam as a symptom of a far deeper malady. And King talks about the triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism. And he basically says, until we get rid of those, we will be marching against wars the rest of our lives, and our children will be marching against those wars as well. And it goes on in that vein. And it's one of the most moving speeches that I know. It's one that I recommend to everybody to listen to. So when you think about that King speech, and you think about the collateral murder video some 40 years later, 42 years when it's released, 43 years later, you say to yourself, not only has nothing changed, but conceivably it's gotten worse. So here we are this week, April 5th, the third anniversary of the collateral murder video. Now, how that came about is important, and what it says is important. It came about because a young private first class, Bradley Manning, serving in Iraq as an intelligence analyst, hears talk about this video. He goes and looks at the video, and he sees this incredible, what he calls incredible bloodlust by American soldiers killing civilians. And there's some argument or discussion about it within his unit. And he sees that Reuters, who had two journalists murdered in that video, has asked for a copy of the video. And the military has gotten back to Reuters and said, well, we can't find it, etc. Yet this video is just floating around through this intelligence analyst unit in Iraq. So after viewing the video, Bradley Manning decides to upload it to WikiLeaks. Like the King speech, it's one that every single one of your viewers ought to look at because it's absolutely devastating. The story is there's an open square in Baghdad, nothing much going on. You can see from the video, it's very clearly shot from the helicopter. People walking around doing their business, no military by any appearance. Just a calm scene. These two American helicopters, what Manning calls aerial gunships with 30 millimeter cannons, come across the scene, and they see these people walking around. And two of the people walking around are Reuters journalists. Obviously, they don't know that, but they think that they might be carrying guns or explosive devices. One, if you look at the video closely, clearly has a camera around his shoulder. The other journalist, I don't think he had anything, particularly, maybe another camera or something. And they ask for, and there's some other people around, and they ask for permission to engage. They get permission to engage. And then you see a video in which people are just slaughtered. It's really the best expression that I know is shooting ducks in a barrel. They're sitting up there with clear vision, and they're just firing these 30 millimeter cannons, devastating the whole place. When you see the picture afterwards, there's this pool of blood that's got to be 50 feet across and 20 feet wide. And one thing we should mention is the two people killed. One is named S.C.A.D.s. He's 40 years old. He had 4 children, one of the best journalists in Iraq. And there's a picture that you see on the one that WikiLeaks prepared of this video of his son screaming, holding his father's picture. The other journalist is a photographer, Namir Eldin. Namir is a 22-year-old man, a war photographer, also slaughtered in this. As I said, WikiLeaks obtained the video from Bradley Manning. As I said, like shooting ducks in a barrel, and they keep shooting. And after they kill at least 8 of them, according to their own admission from this helicopter, the language is what got Bradley Manning to say, I'm giving this video to WikiLeaks because of what he said was bloodlust. And here's what he heard. The soldiers say, or the shooters say, ha ha, I hit him.
Oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
Or, look at these dead bastards.
Oh yeah, look at those dead bastards.
Or, good shooting. And they see a guy crawling, and they know they can't just kill a guy crawling, so they just say, please, pick up a weapon so we can kill you. Pick up a weapon. Then, after they kill these 8, a van comes along, a big van like a moving van, and they admit in the helicopter that's watching them that they've gone to pick up the bodies. They say that to each other in these helicopters. And despite that, they ask permission to engage and shoot the van. And what happens? Can I shoot? Can I shoot? They keep saying. Let me shoot. Let us shoot.
Engage. Picking up the wounded. We're trying to get permission to engage. Come on, let us shoot.
And finally, they get the order, engage. And they engage, and they fire at the van. They then say, they look at the van afterwards, it stopped moving, obviously. They say, look at that, right through the windshield. And then after they do that, the van is out there, all the dead people, the blood, and then they send one of the U.S. tanks or some kind of a U.S. vehicle there. And it's so strewn with bodies that the vehicle can't get through, so it drives over a body. And then the soldiers, or the helicopter guys, say, ha, look it drove over a body. And they all start to laugh. That's the video that people ought to see that Bradley Manning uploaded to WikiLeaks on this, the 3rd anniversary of really the first major piece of what you would call the Bradley Manning set of documents that were released. What Manning said in his guilty plea, quote, the most alarming aspect of the video to me, however, was the seemingly delightful bloodlust they appeared to have. And then he goes on, the dehumanized individuals were engaging. They seemed not to value human life by referring to them as, quote, dead bastards and congratulating each other. So in addition to the Reuters journalists killed, another 8 are killed, and then the father of 2 children in the van is killed. He was going to pick up the bodies to help rescue people. The 2 children are wounded. They're taken to a hospital. They aren't taken to an American hospital where they might have received better care. They're taken to an Iraqi hospital. They survive. I talk about this really because here you have, on one end, an amazing anti-war speech and an anti-warrior, not just about a particular war, as Martin Luther King, but all wars.
I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society, when machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people. The giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered.
And here you have 43 years later, war carried out at its worst in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and of course now by our president, also a Nobel Prize winner like Martin Luther King, but wars all over Somalia, Yemen, and the rest of the Middle East with drones. And it's really, we have a very, very long way to go. But if I recommend two pieces for people to read on this week or hear and listen to, it's Martin Luther King's Beyond Vietnam speech, and it's the 3rd anniversary of the WikiLeaks collateral murder video.
It's kind of a statement about the state of hypocrisy in American culture that you can have. I can't remember the number, but I think it's in the hundreds of cities that have streets named after Martin Luther King. You can have a statue erected to him in Washington. You can have volunteer days named, that take place on the day commemorating him. But the same media and culture can simply accept these kinds of shootings that took place from these gunships.
When Manning talked about it, he said, you see a lot of what he calls video porn. And that's right, they accept this. What has happened as a result of this? Very little, other than people being appalled. And it is an appalling video, and it is an incredible hypocrisy that we can honor King in every city in America, including probably half the cities in Europe and otherwise, and yet so go against the fundamental things he stood for. Not just about Jim Crow and ending segregation in the South, but about really ending militarism, ending racism, and ending what he calls, exaggerated materialism in this country.
And include in that now what will be the jailing of Manning for revealing all of this.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The people who reveal this are at the end of the gun of the United States. Bradley Manning is facing life in prison. He's in a prison now. Julian Assange is in the Ecuadorian embassy. Jeremy Hammond, who also allegedly uploaded documents to WikiLeaks, he's in prison a few blocks from my house at Metropolitan Correctional Center. And many others of these truth tellers have been sent to prison. These truth tellers, in my view, and their publishers are heroes, but you wouldn't know it from looking at any of our media. Martin Luther King is correctly a hero, but they certainly don't listen to his message.
All right, thanks for joining us, Michael.
Good to be with you again, Paul.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.
All right. Now, Bradley Manning's still in jail. All the whistleblowers are still anonymous or locked up or both. How many times have you heard somebody say about whatever conspiracy you might bring up that, by now somebody would have talked if it was really a conspiracy? Well, dozens of people have talked. So, people just need to get the news out. Okay, what we're going to do now, this is something that we've all known for a long time. We've known that the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization is a construct of the CIA back from the 80s, when we used them to fight the war between Iraq and Iran. Now, I don't know whose side we were promoting. I think both. We actually gave weapons to both sides. But if you stop and think about it, Al-Qaeda is to our government the way the neighborhood ruffians are to a glass company that hires them to go around breaking windows at night. The United States is the glass company that hires the bullies. The bullies are Al-Qaeda. Everywhere we want to go, we just send them, and then we have Al-Qaeda as an excuse to go, and bomb the hell out of everybody. And that's the end result. That's people say, why are we doing it? Well, the whole purpose is to bomb. The whole purpose is to use up all that military stuff that otherwise just sits on a shelf and never gets replaced. The military-industrial complex requires that you keep blowing the shit out of everything you have so that you can buy more and more and more and more and more. So, but the fact of the matter is the United States is still in charge of Al-Qaeda right now, to this day. And that makes Obama the leader of Al-Qaeda. In fact, not just an exaggeration, not... Well, okay, we're just going to go ahead and play this video. And this is Alex Jones. And I like to play Alex Jones. He gets a little excited sometimes, but sometimes that's what you need. So here's Alex Jones talking about Obama being the leader of Al-Qaeda.
I've got a lot of thoughts about what I'm about to say here, and I just want to reset for a moment. Let's put up on screen the article right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I said that I had a big announcement here on the radio show today, and it's this. Obama is now the head globally of Al-Qaeda. And that's not a headline that we put up there that's any form of exaggeration. If you have to say one man commands the forces of NATO, commands U.S. forces to aid Al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria to engage in credible atrocities, it is Barack Obama. It is a absolute, total, and complete fact that is going on. And no one will call it like it is. But if listeners of this show will take this article, I'm going to explain this in a moment, that's up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, Obama now global head of Al-Qaeda, and if you will send it out to everyone you know on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and other radio shows, we can force a national debate about this, just like we've done on the 2 billion bullets and the armored vehicles and the checkpoints and the preparations for martial law, now with multiple members of Congress calling for this, investigations starting. We can force this out there. In fact, we've already, to a certain extent, made the LA Times, New York Times, and others admit, okay, the West is running Al-Qaeda. Is that a good idea? Well, my issue is, I don't believe in lesser of two evils, put Al-Qaeda in to take out Assad when Assad hasn't attacked anybody and is about 15, 20 times better than Al-Qaeda. I don't say I like him, but compared to, because I don't like any dictator, but he's not attacking anybody. And he's not, in the past, been oppressing his people, anything like what the globalists are going to put in. So they put Al-Qaeda in and then act like, I mean, this is like the emperor's new clothes. He's wearing no clothes, but none of us are supposed to admit that he's naked. And so we all just play along with it. So what I'm doing is, with a shocking headline that actually reports to the level of the over-the-topness, and it can capture people's imagination, because if you just have it in the back of the paper, okay, the U.S. is aiding these groups, including Al-Qaeda, and so does Saudi Arabia, and so's NATO, and so's France, but it's no big deal. You know, Assad's a bad guy. We force the debate with the sensational headline, because this is sensational. See, so many people tend to, when the government does something sensationally bad, over-the-top bad, they will not cover it. Or they will just bury it, or they will whitewash it because, well, you can't say the government runs Al-Qaeda when they do. And now Mohammed Karzai, their own puppet, has come out and said the United States and NATO run Al-Qaeda and Taliban. They're staging the bombings. Remember that 2 weeks ago? That really pushed this out there and really had a lot of people start apologizing to me. Well, it's not just that one point. It's thousands, and I'm going to go over some of them here. But here's the rest of the headline, and this is what's newsworthy. This is what is different and will get people thinking, because it shows the absurdity of what they're doing. This is not an absurd statement in reality, because what Obama and his controllers are doing is so absurd. Here's the headline. Obama now global head of Al-Qaeda. Subheadline, will president order drone strike on White House? Will the president order a drone strike on himself? Now, if this breaks big, they'll try to spin it that I'm saying drone strike. That's how dumb they think you are. I want nothing to happen to Obama. I want him to live to be 150 in a prison cell along with the rest of the globalists. I don't want to turn him into a martyr. He's just a teleprompter reading puppet. But in his puppet office of an authoritarian White House now, that's admitted, saying NATO's over our military, he'll shut down power plants without congressional approval. He's becoming dictatorial. He ran fast and furious to blame the Second Amendment. You've now got Obama saying he'll kill and he'll drone strike anybody he wants, anywhere, anytime, including U.S. citizens, including domestically. And that he's above the law and he'll order you tortured, he'll order you drugged for trial, whatever. He's God. While in the real world, they put over 50,000 Al-Qaeda in Libya and now in Syria, and we have video today of them chopping innocent people's heads off, blowing up Christian churches, and engaging in unbelievable war crimes, while everyone's told we're losing our rights because of Al-Qaeda, but now they're segueing, you notice, saying, actually, it is veterans and gun owners and conservatives are the new #1 threat. Justice Department's reporting. We're going to go after them with Homeland Security. So I'm calling the 10 million pound elephant in the room. I'm calling the Emperor Obama is butt naked. I'm calling it out, and I'm saying, according to your doctrine, that you can just say somebody's Al-Qaeda and kill them. If you really wanted to get Al-Qaeda, President Obama, you would shut down Al-Qaeda operations that you run. So if you had a computer picking targets for it, you said, get Al-Qaeda, like GoldenEye, what would that computer target? It would target you. So you are the head of Al-Qaeda. Obama is the head of Al-Qaeda. I mean, it's true. Call it. People are like, what's the big news? That is the big news. Calling it for what it is. The Matrix. Taking the red pill. The White House runs Al-Qaeda. Now they're going to start drugging you with mind control drugs to make you tell the truth in trial. That's just public torture. That's a public fake trial. But they're hiding it in plain view, using appeal to authority, act like it's okay. Oh, yeah, we injected black people with syphilis. We're not going to get in trouble. Yeah, we just gave, hundreds of thousands of people polio-like, stuff and debilitated 40-plus thousand of them in India. But it's no big deal. Back of the paper. See, they want to just create a normalcy bias where you just get used to incredibly bad things being normal if government does it. That's how the journey of tyranny happens. And so you read the article that Paul Watson and I put together this morning that just went up at Infowars.com. Obama, now head of Al-Qaeda, will president order drone strikes on White House? I'm getting my movie names wrong. I said the name of the film where people can't control their own subconscious is Forbidden Planet, and it's Eagle Eye, where the computer sees that the government's destroying the Bill of Rights and Constitution with drone strikes and attacks the government. So we asked the question, and I'm asking it, and again, I want no harm on the president. They'll try to twist that and say that, and that'll just help get the story out even more, because you're a bunch of liars if you say that. Secret Service has been here before, multiple times, so whatever. We're saying, according to Obama, saying kill anybody involved with Al-Qaeda, will he order a drone strike on the White House or on himself or on NATO headquarters? Because they run Al-Qaeda and Taliban, and Karzai's pointing it out, and I've got stacks of articles linked in this mainstream news admitting it, and the Council on Foreign Relations saying, we need Al-Qaeda. They're doing a great job. Said that last year. That's the real government here in the U.S. So by having a shocking headline, only a shocking headline can point out the shocking absurdity of the globalists running Al-Qaeda all over the world and then saying, oh, well, we just play both sides. No, you don't. You ran 9/11. You ran Oklahoma City. You ran Fast and Furious. You ran it all. Then they go, oh, you're saying our troops did. No, the criminal globalists that have infiltrated the government. That's who I'm talking about. Let's get that straight. That's the inside job. Does that not mean there aren't some Muslim extremists? Yeah, there are, and the globalists use them to take down countries and take my liberties. And I am sick and tired of it. Now, let me go over this here. Obama, now global head of Al-Qaeda, will president order drone strike on the White House? And I asked that question. Remember Gibbs said, oh, we were told to lie and say there was no drone program, even though it was admitted to exist. This is the same deal. They run Al-Qaeda publicly, and they're trying to get us to sit here and play along with it. So I'm not playing along, okay? That's why we're in so much trouble, folks. They have gone so far, no one wants to admit this. It came out recently in Williamson County that they knowingly kept an innocent man in jail who had no criminal record for 25 years, even though they had the bloody bandana and had somebody else who'd done a murder and tried to keep him in jail. And you're like, how did that happen? Because once they knew they'd set him up, they could never admit it. And it's the same thing. Once they get you... that's the Michael Morton's case. Once they get you into evil, you have to keep defending it. So now they've got us defending the government running Al-Qaeda while saying they've got to take our rights because of Al-Qaeda. And I told you this was coming. Now saying, oh, it's not Al-Qaeda, it's patriots. We're the new Al-Qaeda. No, I'm not. You're terrorist. You're Al-Qaeda. You're a foreign banking cartel. I want you out of here. And the whole world's watching this and can't believe I'm still alive. Because God is on my side, and I'll be alive as long as God wants me to be alive. Okay, so that's what's happening. That's what's going on. Now, let me go over some of these headlines for you as we go to break here with the document cam. Look at this. Okay, backing this up. Go read the article. It's got it all in there going over this. Look at this headline. Gruesome video shows Syrian Al-Qaeda rebel beheading civilians. Look at this. Al-Qaeda-linked Iman dined at Pentagon after 9/11. Anwar al-Awlaki. Fox News, Al-Qaeda leader dined at Pentagon just months after 9/11. Al-Qaeda's specter in Syria, CFR. They go on to say, we need Al-Qaeda, oh, they're so great. CFR strategist praises Al-Qaeda bombings in Syria. I mean, this is what call it for what it is. The globalists are Al-Qaeda. They run Al-Qaeda. Obama is the Al-Qaeda commander.
That ought to get people fired up, you know, especially you people that are all asleep thinking Obama is still the man. You know, anybody that doesn't understand that Obama is one of the worst criminals in history, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you haven't been paying attention. Well, back when we were about to invade Iraq, there was, you know, almost no voice saying don't go. I mean, well, there were worldwide protests, unprecedented worldwide protests before the war started. Usually war protests start after the war has been going on for quite a while. For the first time in history, almost the entire world protested, do not go into Iraq. But we did anyway. But Dennis Kucinich, who's now basically retired, I guess, I think he lost his position in Congress. I might be giving you disinfo on that one. But anyway, this is a tribute to Dennis Kucinich by a group called parodiesofTruth.com. They made me a 9/11 video once, and I played that for quite a while. So I'm going to play this. It's about 4 minutes long, and it's really good.
Scary, scary night. Great words did you have to say. Opponents made our soldiers pay. They spoke with darkness in their soul. Liars on the hill. Sketchy laws and passing bills. Never knowing who it kills. And tarnishing the good name of this land. Maybe now they'll understand what you tried to say to them. It's violence that we must condemn. That alone will set us free. They would not listen, they did not know how. I hope they're listening now. Scary, scary night. Flaming cities brightly blaze. Swirling flames in violent haze reflect the choices of the very few. Seems like nothing's new. Mourning those who died in vain. Mothers' faces filled with pain, ignored because of corporate's upper hand. I did understand what you tried to say to me, and how you saw this as insanity, while all the others just agreed. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now, for they could not hear you although your words were true. And with the lack of their insight on that scary, scary night, we dropped the bombs and violence did ensue. And I could have told you, Dennis, that the world was not yet ready for the insightfulness of you. Scary, scary night. Children scream and buildings fall, counting heads on broken floors, and eyes that watch the world and won't forget the decisions we'll regret. Peaceful men in violent clothes, ourselves upon them we imposed, and crushed their spirits with our constant blows. Now I hope you know what he tried to say to you. The consequences he already knew. That's when his supporters grew. We started listening and our hearts he filled. Now it's the people's will.
parodiesofTruth.com. Yeah, there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good work out there, and that one brings a tear to your eye. You know, if you saw Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, there's a scene in there of an Iraqi woman who just had her house blown to smithereens, and every one of her family was killed, and she's sitting there crying, wondering, why? What did I do? What did I do? She's just a civilian, and our shock and awe took care of her. You know, and you can't, if you can watch that without bursting into tears, you're some kind of a real cold person. I don't know what to say. But anyway, on a lighter subject, I have Marcela Pena with me, and she's got some announcements.
Yes, so you've been watching Bill's show, 9/11 was an inside job in other state crimes against democracy, and it airs the first and third Saturday of every month. And we're both members of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And I co-founded the Portland chapter, and in the month of April, we'll be having 3 library presentations, free library presentations of the DVD 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out. At the end of the presentation, we'd be giving you a free DVD of what you just saw. And again, in the month of April, we'll be having 3 library showings. One is actually next week, Tuesday, April 9th at the Selwood Moreland Library. And then we have again at the Hillsdale Library, Thursday, April 25th. And then Tuesday, April 30th, at the end of the month, is at the Hollywood Library. And then we have 2 already scheduled for the month of May, which is at the Central Library, Tuesday, May 14th, and at the Belmont Library, Tuesday, May 21st. And again, this is put on by the Portland chapter of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and we're showing you presentations of the latest DVD from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, which debuted May of last year, and it's called 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out. In this 90-minute documentary, as it says at the bottom of the screen, well, as it did say, it will be, it covers, really the DVD covers that 3 skyscrapers fell the day of 9/11 in New York City, and we show you using the scientific method, or the DVD shows you using the scientific method, how all 3 skyscrapers were brought down using explosive, and that's why it's entitled 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out. And please join us. And again, you'll be getting a free DVD at the end of the free library presentation.
And as far as the scientific method is concerned, I find, all the interactions in the blogs that we have, I'll get to that phone call in a minute, all the interactions we have seems to indicate that the biggest problem that we have is scientific ignorance out there. So many people do not understand the difference between evidence and subjective interpretation of selective observations. You got that one? That's subjective interpretations of selected observations is not evidence or proof of anything. Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and take that call.
Caller, please.
We're getting some sort of weird...
Oh, am I on now? It's getting some feedback here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting feedback. But you are on, though.
Go ahead and talk. He'll try to straighten it out while you're doing that. Sounds like we have too much...
Well, what that woman, what she did, what did she do? She believed in America. Too much, huh?
I don't have a clue what you're talking about, sir. Okay, go ahead and kill that. It's too noisy. Well, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm going to play a short clip here. It's Michael Rupert, and he's being interviewed on a show called Media Mayhem. And if you haven't seen any of the Media Mayhem interviews, they have some of the best interviews on the band. So I guess we'll go ahead and play this one. And he's talking about Dick Cheney and the lies of 9/11, kind of like we talked about last week, but this is from Michael Rupert's view. And he's the one who wrote Crossing the Rubicon, probably the #1 reference book for 9/11. So we'll go ahead and start this one, and we'll be back in a minute and see if we can take some phone calls.
The attacks were orchestrated by Dick Cheney. They were maestroed by Dick Cheney, and that goes to the chapter on war games that I wrote in the book, where I have absolute on-the-record information from U.S. Air Force sources showing that 24 false radar blips were injected onto radar screens during the hijackings themselves in war game exercises directly under the control of Vice President.
Why do you object to the use of the word collusion?
Because collusion would to me imply you have this group who can do one thing and this group, and they decide to cooperate together. No, the whole thing was run at the U.S. government level. We have undisputed records, and here I cited stories from ABC, NBC, Newsweek, and so forth. You don't want to challenge them, showing that Mohammed Atta and Al-Hazmi, several of the hijackers, had attended military flight training schools. Atta, I think, at Maxwell Air Force Base in Florida. But in point of fact, none of the hijackers, aside from the ones that it was known to have attended military schools, had obtained a pilot's license, let alone the ability to fly a multi-engine jet aircraft, which requires an instrument rating and perform maneuvers that fighter pilots wouldn't want to perform. So I believe, and I think the evidence is very clear, and I got to say that Rubicon is the second or third largest selling book about September 11th after the Kane Commission report. And it's, it's in the library, still in Barnes & Noble. No, the U.S. government has never even acknowledged that the book exists.
If Dick Cheney was responsible, what's the end game? What was the end game for him?
Oil. Iraqi oil.
And this is an excuse to go into Iraq, as it turned, even though there's no connection.
And that was one of the big lies the government told, that Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11, when we all know that he didn't. And as a matter of fact, there's a long list of on-the-record statements of government officials saying that Richard Clark, I think, for example, was one, saying that, okay, we're all looking at Afghanistan, and then the word came from Rumsfeld and all the people in the Pentagon were going to Iraq. And everyone, what? Why are we going to Iraq? Now, Saddam Hussein was a threat for two reasons. Iraq had, at the time, the second largest oil reserves on the planet, which had been lying fallow, essentially, since the sanctions from the '91 Gulf War. So they hadn't been tapped as much. The infrastructure was tapped. But Saddam Hussein was also moving to price in euros. And the threat to dollar hegemony made him public enemy number 1A. 1+, whatever. And so that became a major priority for the U.S. government. And that, I wouldn't say mission accomplished when you've killed 2 million Iraqi civilians.
But they did get control of the oil.
They did get control of the oil.
Which was the real mission.
Which was controlled now under production sharing agreements, so that various countries that needed that oil, and that would include Russia and China, got their share, but all priced in U.S. dollars. The White House, the U.S. government, had received detailed warnings from the Russian DFS, Foreign Intelligence Service, from MI6, even from the Israelis, Very specific warnings. And if you put them together, what was very clear that was hijacked airliners from American and United are going to be crashed into the World Trade Center in the week of September the 9th. As a matter of fact, Vladimir Putin was on television 2 days after the attacks, and I confirmed, I pulled a story on this, and he said, I sent a specific delegation to warn President Bush that planes were going to be hijacked and crashed into the World Trade Center. These were direct warnings. So, and the knowledge turns out to have been in Morocco and many, many other countries that these attacks were coming again during this week. Now, if we backpedal a little bit, why was Dick Cheney sending all the fighters out of the region?
When there's this much intelligence.
Why was he, when you have all these countries warning you of this, why do you paralyze your own defense system at that time?
Hi everyone, I'm Alison Hope Weiner, and I'm here to announce a new contest. We're going to be giving away...
All right, I'm the one who had the control there. Okay, so anyway, Michael Rupert has probably almost 2 hours worth of information and videos out there. This was just a little 4-minute clip, and I've got another 1.5-minute clip, but we're going to take the phone caller that's called back. So go ahead, caller. Let's try it again.
Yeah, Bill, no, I'm not the first caller. I'm a different caller. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. Something's wrong with our system.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but if you got good connection going your direction, I'll go ahead and make a comment.
Yes.
For anyone who does not believe or is adamantly denying that the government is so foul that they will not commit these crimes, I would turn their attention to a program I watched on C-SPAN 3 this morning. It has 2 more air times. It's the author William Pepper and his book, An Act of State, The Execution of Martin Luther King. Now, what he does is he investigated for decades, actually, the involvement of the government in the execution of Martin Luther King, and he goes into really good detail on the players and how it was carried out.
It's still really
and the re-air times on C-SPAN 3 are tonight, 2 a.m. to a little bit past 3. And tomorrow on C-SPAN 3, 10 p.m. to a little past 11.
I can barely hear him now.
And I would urge anyone,
that's a lot better,
everyone, to at least record it and watch it at their leisure or sit there.
Okay.
Well, thank you, caller, for having mentioned that, and thanks for having mentioned the air dates, the re-air dates of the C-SPAN 3.
Yeah,
author.
And sorry about the audio. I think we got it more or less straightened out now. Let's see. Well, I guess I should just go ahead and roll that clip, and then we'll come back. This is about Osama bin Laden. Michael Rupert talking about Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden was dead in 2002, 2003, latest 2004 as a result of kidney failure and dialysis. And it was generally assumed, and I have been still plugged into the intelligence community, SEAL team members and members of CIA and so forth. If bin Laden had died on his own outside of custody, that would essentially mean that he won. He avoided capture for his whole life. But I personally believe, and there is an enormous amount of evidence showing that Osama bin Laden was a CIA creation. The bin Laden family runs a major construction company in Saudi Arabia, very closely tied to the royal family. Major government contracts, there were CIA connections.
And connections to the Bush family as well.
Major connections to the Bush family, which are probably too long to go into now, but they're all footnoted in Rubicon. And I believe him to have been a total creation of the Central Intelligence Agency, to be someone that we could put up as a straw man to fight and to blame on, because it's, well, leaving aside the fact that it's technically impossible for 19 hijackers working from a cave to have accomplished what happened on September 11th.
Hi everyone, I'm Alison Hope Weiner, and I'm here to announce a new contest. We're going to be giving away 2 iPad minis.
So
we're not supposed to have those advertisements on cable access, so we tried to stop it. Now, I think we've got that telephone situation dialed in a little better there. Now, I had planned on playing a clip from the Toronto 9/11 hearings. Actually, Toronto hearings on 9/11 is what they are called when you go looking for them. but there's almost 5 hours of video. But I was going to play Niels Harrit talking about nanothermite, so you can hear the scientific description of the discovery and the implications of nanothermite. We're going to probably wait till next time for that, but if you get the inclination, you can either go to YouTube, or I've submitted it along with all 5 hours. I've submitted 5 different episodes, parts 1 through 5, I guess, and that'll be airing on cable access. Just check your TV guide. Have you got any more info?
Well, and the last time we were on, there was a caller that wanted to know if we'd be playing any more of the fluoride videos, and
yeah, we just had that another James Corbett, that Portland versus fluoride 45 minutes worth, and of course last night, that was close enough, was a growing concern with Jim Lockhart, and he replayed his fluoride episode. And it's really important that, this is a state crime against democracy for sure, is poisoning our water, giving us medication without any sort of monitoring. It just isn't done. We got a phone call. Let's try it again. Yep, that one's gone. Anybody else? I guess that's it. So try it again now that we're clear. We'll probably be able to take your call.
Anyway, the reason we mentioned the fluoride is because it's going to be coming up for vote. So
yeah, we have
just to
about a
inform
month
yourself.
from now. Just about a month exactly, isn't it?
Yeah, so just to educate yourself on the fluoride issue, and that it is a toxin, and well.
What? Oh, okay. Well, I do have another video that we can play in the meantime, because remember we were talking about whistleblowers? Well, I have a short little 5-minute clip here from James Corbett, same one that we were talking about doing the Portland versus fluoride video. Anyway, he's going to talk about whistleblowers in the United States. So if you guys are ready, here we go.
Welcome. This is James Corbett of the Corbett Report with your eye-opener report for BoilingFrogsPost.com. When faced with the overwhelming evidence of the widespread systemic conspiracies that take place at the very highest levels of government, the general public has been pre-programmed to respond with the all-too-familiar retort, "But someone would have talked." This reasoning is sufficient for most people to return to their day-to-day lives. No matter how much documented information is presented to someone in such a mindset, they can satisfy themselves that there are no whistleblowers who question the official narrative of 9/11, or the actions of the NSA, or the involvement of government agencies in drug running, or any of the other well-documented examples of conspiracies involving the upper echelons of politics and the intelligence apparatus of the government. To these people, the mere uttering of the words themselves are enough to dismiss any mountain of evidence. But someone would have talked. The implication is that no one has talked on these issues, that no insider has ever stepped forward to reveal the uncomfortable truths of active conspiracy in the hallowed halls of government. This is, of course, an easy enough assertion to prove patently false.
Freres was seen filling out visa applications for people in the consulate. It was just absolutely incomprehensible to me. And people I talked to who had been there really didn't want to say much more about it. And it wasn't until I was out of the Foreign Service, when my appointment had been terminated for unspecified reasons, that I learned from 3 good sources. Joe Trento, the journalist, a fellow attached to a university in Washington, D.C., and a guy with expert knowledge on the Middle East who had worked for a government agency. They said, it's very simple. The CIA and its asset Osama bin Laden were recruiting terrorists for the Afghan war. They were sending them to the United States for training, for rewards, for whatever purpose, and then sending them on to Afghanistan. And most likely, the problems they had with the liquor at the consulate, large amounts of it disappearing, it being sold at very high markups, and so forth, was being used to fund this.
So anyway, John Walker Lind became the first capture in the war on terrorism. He also became the first prisoner in the war on Afghanistan. And he was also the first person tortured by the United States in the war on terrorism. So I had received a call about whether or not the FBI on the ground in Pakistan could question him without his lawyer. In the United States, you can't do that. You have to make people aware of what their rights are. Accordingly, being the ethics attorney for the department, I advised that they had to allow him his attorney. That was on a Friday. Over the weekend, the FBI interrogated him anyway.
Knowing what I know, and again, this was written 91 days before the attack, knowing what I know, I can confidently say that until the investigative responsibilities for terrorism are removed from the FBI, I will not feel safe. The FBI has proven for the past decade it cannot identify and prevent acts of terrorism against the United States and its citizens at home and abroad. Even worse, there is virtually no effort on the part of the FBI's International Terrorism Unit to neutralize known and suspected terrorists residing within the United States. Unfortunately, more terrorist attacks against American interests, coupled with the loss of American lives, will have to occur before those in power give this matter the urgent attention it deserves. Realizing more American lives are going to be needlessly lost, no one should expect me to consciously sit idly by and pretend to forget the things I know. By sharing what I know, the terrorism problems plaguing America may be corrected. Knowing what I know, I truly believe I would be derelict in my duty as an American if I did not do my best to bring the FBI's dereliction of duty to the attention of others.
You've been watching an excerpt of this week's Eye Opener Report. To continue watching the report, please log into BoilingFrogsPost.com.
Okay, BoilingFrogsPost.com is Sibel Edmonds' website. Now, remember, she was the most classified woman. She was the FBI translator who blew the whistle on FBI foreknowledge of 9/11, and she blew the whistle on the fact that bin Laden was on the payroll of the CIA up to, including, and after 9/11. So anybody wants to know, there's Obama's buddy, bin Laden.
I think we have a caller on the line.
Caller?
Caller?
Hello?
Hi.
Well, yeah, we hear you. Go ahead.
You talking to me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes. Go ahead and talk.
Am I talking to Bill? Yes. I just wanted to commend you for the program once more. It's an excellent program.
Jimmy moved. Hi, Jimmy.
Purely, thank you. Purely as a comment on what you said, on the business of percentage, of course, this is a great guy, but it fits somehow in the overall aspect of today's political world, whereby you allow somebody until he does some dangerous to be there, so that you can say, you see, we also allow free speech and we have allowed the opposition, and the situation is that the majority of the people do not want lifting what the policy of the government. Otherwise, there will be more percentage in the government. So I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything extraordinary, except that thank you for the feedback. That the situation as I see, and it was an excellent program. Some of the things I didn't see before, I'm glad I remembered, and I hope that your program will be a rebroadcast of this hours, both on Channel 21 and Channel 11, because people must see this until one day perhaps they will understand it.
Right, and I also posted it on my website. It's, not my website, it's YouTube/251 Omega, and you can find all of the episodes of this show for the last 6 years.
Sure.
Anyway,
I'm sent to some friends in Europe who were very interested too.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. And you guys, we need to adjust the audio better next time. We need to lower the volume in here, and I think it's feeding back on these microphones. So turn down our mics when next time that happens, I guess. Okay, well, we have about a minute left before we start rolling the credits, and there's time enough for... Oh, we got another call. I was just going to say, there's time for your call, so go call back.
Spoke too soon.
Have anything to wrap up with?
For the Portland chapter of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, please go to our website, www.portlandae911truth.org, for upcoming library presentations. The founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, his name is Richard Gage. We had him here twice last year for presentations. We'll be having him again this year in the month of June, and he'll likely be on this show also.
If I have anything to say about it, but maybe not. The caller called back about that C-SPAN MLK execution video. I think that's what it was called, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
C-SPAN 3.
C-SPAN 3 tonight, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. And, well, he also has 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. I don't know if that's the next day or the same day.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So check out 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. tonight, and if that doesn't work, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. This morning, coming morning. We got about a minute and a half left, and I recommend everybody go to Sibel Edmonds' website. That's boilingfrogspost.com, and also James Corbett at thecorbettreport.com. He's stationed in Japan. He's doing all his work from Japan. It's amazing. The internet makes the world a much smaller place.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and again, go to portlandae911truth.org for upcoming free library presentations of the DVD 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out, and also for any upcoming presentations we'll be having of guest speakers. The next one will be in June. It's by Richard Gage, the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and he travels the world giving presentations on how 3 skyscrapers were taken down on September 11th with explosions using the scientific method.
Right on. And I was just going to say that if anybody has the inclination, come on down to PCM Studios when we're live, and I can give you copies of the roll-ins or even copies of other stuff that we've done before. 13 seconds and we're gone. They should have been rolling the credits by now.
This show airs the first and third Saturday of every month, so please see us again. Thank you.
Thanks.